What is going on, everyone? It's another episode of Grid Encore. Welcome back. I'm back on the East Coast from the last 2 weekends out at Portland and Sonoma. Brandon Crossland is here as always. Brandon, how's it going?
Going well, Ben. Good to see you back on the East Coast with us. And yeah, a big swing for you out there in Portland and Sonoma. We're glad you're back safely, but as always, glad you're able to do those things for both here on Grid and also for Brock Beard.
Yeah, it's year 3 for me. And just, again, want to say huge thanks to everybody at both of my outlets, obviously here at Grid Network, Joe Samaniego, and all his hard work putting that weekend together for this outlet here. And then my friend Ethan Smith for his assistance in getting down to Northern California, spending the week with him. And then, of course, Brock Beard and NASCAR.info for putting the Sonoma deal together. It's no small task making this my own version of a double, if you will, work here. And we've done it the last 3 years, and can't thank each of those 3 individuals enough for the roles that they have played in helping me get to the track. I don't take it for granted. And on this weekend in particular, more than ever, also the same can be said for our Patreon supporters, Colin Deschelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. Your support means the world to us. I know we say it every week, but on weekends like this in particular, it goes no small. There's no small role played by you all as well in terms of getting us to the track. And as you can see, if you like what you see tonight, if you like what you've seen from the track here the last couple of weeks at Portland, Joe will be back out there for the Formula E finale. Of course, we heard today that Miami will be the U.S. round next year. So maybe Portland's in the running for a cup date. We're hearing that they're trying to get on that, but I know a lot of places are. So there's probably too many tracks, not enough slots open there. But we'll see what the future holds for the fine folks over at Portland International Raceway. But in the meantime, you've got that to look forward to. And if you want to make that a more regular occurrence for us here at Grid Network, you can help by joining our Patreon or through for YouTube memberships that we now have enabled as well. As you can see, we have a goal of $500 per month to help cover expenses to get us to a track on a more regular basis, which only expands our coverage for you, the viewers. If you'd rather make a one-time donation instead, you can donate through YouTube Super Chats or through Buy Me a Coffee as well. And of course, the biggest thing you can do to help support us is just follow us on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for the support. Like I said, our channel is really taking some steps forward here. I think SVG doing what he does so well has played no small role in that as well, because checking out our analytics, we've got a lot of support from Australia and New Zealand and Supercars fans here. So thank you all for tuning in as well. You all certainly had a good week seeing SVG in the Xfinity Series race, which we'll get to here in just a few minutes, but also Will Brown and Cam Waters coming over here and running the Sonoma race. I know that their races did not go according to plan. I'm sure they would have liked to have some better results here, but hopefully they get another opportunity to do that here. Obviously, Cam Waters made some truck starts, and I'm sure Will Brown wants another crack at it as well. So we'll see what the future holds for them. But just to kind of wrap up the opening segment here, again, massive thank you to Joe, Ethan, and Brock, and thank you all for tuning in every week as well, because I got to tell you, every year I felt like, I don't travel as often as, a lot of other people might. And, flying still, I'm happy to do it. It's not like a phobia of mine, but it is kind of a hassle. You go through TSA and, you're away from your home for a couple of weeks at a time. It can be an anxious, stressful experience. But then once you get out there and you're at the track and you're with people who share the love and passion for this great sport, I've met so many great people over the last 3 years, and I don't take those opportunities for granted. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much. And thank you, Brandon, for helping make this show possible as well, because again, the 2 series that we cover most here with Xfinity and trucks, I guess you can throw out there as well. But the ARCA platform, the main draw for me the last 3 years, getting those series on back-to-back weekends on 2 great road courses on the West Coast. You've played no small role in helping this show become what it is over the last 3 years. So thank you for that as well.
Oh, well, thank you, Ben. We really appreciate all the big chunk of info we're able to get each and every year because of this West Coast double. So good to have another one, and hope we can keep doing this for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I was mentioning, there's some uncertainty up in the air. I mean, there always is, but I think next year in particular with the TV deal, I think the schedule is going to change around a little bit. We're hearing rumors that Sonoma might be moved up to the middle of May instead of the middle of June. And obviously, Portland's plans may be in flux. I would expect Xfinity to be back, hopefully, but they could change there as well. So we'll see. But if the schedule lines up again next year, hopefully we can continue to make this trip happen. So, and Adam brings up a good point as well here. Maybe good luck charm for SVG with him winning here in back-to-back weeks. Obviously, we're going to start with that. That's the main storyline here. SVG did it again. And I got to ask you, Brandon, obviously driving for Kaulig Racing, we've grown accustomed to seeing them up front on these road course races with AJ Allmendinger over the last, my goodness, I guess 5 years now in the Xfinity Series. But with SVG and the team now, obviously what he's done the last 2 weekends, is he officially Kaulig's new king of the road courses? And I guess with Chicago, you can throw the street courses in there as well.
I guess he's starting to become that. I mean, AJ Allmendinger has really been beating himself up here lately, and he's got even more reasons to be mad after Sonoma with the scruff there with Sheldon Creed, which was funny to see on the broadcast. But yeah, he's maybe much more than just the new king of road courses for Kaulig Racing. But I'll take from cues from Chocolate Myers on Sirius XM this afternoon. Give him a little more time. He's going to figure these ovals out too, and then watch out. It's really impressive to see how quickly he's been able to adapt over here. But at the same time, it's pretty similar with the big heavy car. I mean, not an exact copy, but the beating and banging aspect of things is fairly similar to what he was used to cutting his teeth in Australia and New Zealand. His homeland, of course, being the Kiwi in New Zealand. But there's a lot of similarities to pull from there. But the fact that he's able to come here and get in Xfinity after kind of dipping his feet in the water last year, of course, the big win in Chicago, but able to come this year in the summertime, Portland, boom, Sonoma, boom. That's really impressive. And I know we're getting a lot of traction just because we say SVG and Shane Van Gisbergen. Welcome, everyone from New Zealand and Australia. It's been fun to interact with you in the comments of our snippets of this show that go on later on throughout the week.
Yeah, like we said, obviously, it's clear that SVG is the king of road courses right now in this series, and I think he said it, of course, last week after Portland. Next goal is winning on an oval. He didn't have the opportunity to do that this weekend, obviously being in another road course. But you see, we got Iowa coming up next week, and we'll see if he can break through there. What a story that would be! My goodness, if he could win 3 in a row and get an oval win, something that Juan Pablo Montoya wanted to do when he came over from Formula One and Card and was unable to do so. Marcus Ambrose the same way. Obviously, very similar background coming over from supercars. Won several times at Watkins Glen, got a couple race wins down in Nationwide / Xfinity as well, but could never quite break through at the top level on an oval. I know SVG, certainly has great ambitions to do that. And if he can, to the point you were making there, Brandon, as well, the rest of the field's going to have to watch out because he's going to be a lock to, if not win the race, at least be competitive, probably assuming nothing goes wrong, finish in the top 5 at minimum on these road courses. And, with more than ever on the schedule nowadays, plays right into his hands, in terms of the schedule. And if he can figure out the ovals, certainly, I think, we'll see. Still has a long way to go, I think, in terms of just how radically different those types of tracks are. But if he can figure those out, certainly at the Xfinity level, I think you can pencil him in as a championship contender because we know he's got the road and street courses down for sure.
Yeah, the winning on an oval would definitely be the key for him to rise above the Marcos Ambrose, the Max Pappas, on Pablo Montoya. That would just really be his next level, wouldn't it? Just to conquer the oval, you really would set yourself apart of, okay, I am in a different tier than those that have come before me and done the same thing.
Well, let me ask you this, Brandon, because I know that this came up on Sirius XM this afternoon. I think Jeff Cluck and Alan Cavana were filling in fresh off of their weekend at Sonoma. Didn't get to listen to the show, but I know that this was a point of discussion. If SVG can win on an oval later this year in Xfinity, or even if he doesn't, even if he just continues to show steady improvement and is competing for wins, do you think 2025 is too soon to move him up? Would you give him that opportunity if a ride opens up? We know charters are going to be available with Stewart Haas, and who knows what's going to happen there. If there's a place to fill a seat with SVG, do you take that opportunity, or would you give him another full Xfinity year before making that jump?
Honestly, I would play it safe. If I was the owner, I'd play it safe and play another year in Xfinity. But it looks like Trackhouse Racing is where he wants to go. Justin Marks uh, has his eye closely on him. He also is looking at Connor Zilic. He's got Zane Smith in the wing. There's a lot of potential there at Trackhouse, but just someone's got to go somewhere, and someone won't. How soon those things happen will be up to time itself. But if I was in the driver's seat, though, I would not put Shane Van Gisbergen in the Cup Series immediately in 2025. Even if he wins on an oval, I would still hold off. I think it's too soon. But some people have different philosophy and see when you see greatness like that, then you better jump at it while it's hot, or you might miss a window per se.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see both sides of it. I think obviously the mentality, and we see this more so in Europe with the F2 to F1 ladder, but the idea, of course, being if you win a championship, then it's assumed that you're ready for the next step, and you actually aren't even allowed to come back and defend your title. I don't know, but I'd put a championship on SVG's radar just yet, although now that I think about it, he did have a pretty strong run at Phoenix in the spring, if I recall correctly. You never know with this crazy championship playoff bracket and format that we have now, what's going to happen. We know obviously he's locked in with these 2 wins now, but I think that's probably setting our ambitions a little bit too high here for year one when he's still figuring out the ovals. If he can just get 1 win on the ovals, I think that's a massive step forward here, and we'll see. But I would probably lean towards the same strategy you have, Brandon. I would say give him another full Xfinity season, but again, it's a very interesting case right now with Colleague, not being where they want to, be performing in the Cup Series right now, and what's going to happen with that program. I know Chris Rice is insisting that a merger is not on the table, but how rumors continue to persist, we'll see. But we also have the charter agreements seem to be stalling a little bit. We got more updates on those over the last 24 hours, so that's going to be interesting. But there are also some rumors that they may limit teams to 3 full-time entries and charters, and the Hendricks and Gibbses of the world will be grandfathered in, I guess. But we thought maybe if Trackhouse was interested in going up to 4 teams, then maybe they'd have enough for all the drivers that they seem to have under their family here. But they like Ross Chastain, they like Daniel Suarez. If they are limited to only 3 for whatever reason, whether that's from NASCAR or just from a business standpoint for them individually, would you put Zane Smith in there? Would you hold off until Connor Zilic is ready? That's probably multiple years down the road. Or do you take a chance on SVG and put him in Cup car full time? I think there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered there.
Yeah, if I'm SVG and I get the Cup offer for, sorry, Echo is speaking to me. Our Amazon family of products here at the house. But if I was SVG and I was offered Trackhouse, I would take that. If I'm offered Colleague in Cup, I would say, well, hold on, because there's the level of Cup caliber where if I'm SVG, I want the best chance and not the 3rd best chance or 4th best chance, respectively.
Stick with Colleague in Xfinity. Obviously, it's going very well so far this year, and we'll see. They can bounce back, because even the Xfinity program, I think, you look at AJ Allmendinger's performance coming back to Xfinity full time this year. I think, Josh Williams, especially, he had some speed here on these road courses the last couple of weeks, which is good to see. But he's needed that because he in particular, that 11 car, really hasn't been up to speed. So they're obviously, we talked about their Cup program a lot, but even the Xfinity program, I think, still has some steps forward that they're trying to take back and get back to the level that they were at when AJ was running full time in 21 and 22.
Yeah, you see these Xfinity mainstays from Colleague, AJ trying to go to Cup with it, stalled, came back, and now we see Daniel Hemrick in limbo at Colleague Racing. It's hard to watch.
Yep, no doubt. Let's catch up on the chat here. Max Fish, good to see you here. Looking forward to SVG and Larson going at it. Yeah, I think you get those two together in the Cup Series. If the Coda deal is any indication, and that was another thing, I guess we should mention the three-way battle on that day with Austin Hill. I guess Austin Hill considers it potentially even now, although Hill didn't come out on top at Coda. That was Larson, obviously, but that was an interesting. I love these drift burnouts that he's doing all the way around the track. I mean, that's really cool to see. But
we got to talk about that.
I don't know if he planned it or not, but there was that photo of him doing the burnout, waving to the crowd, and Austin Hill's got the one finger salute out of his window based on how that battle went down.
It could be interpreted as "eat my smoke, here I come." Around all of the competition I just beat on the burnout. It's like the ultimate diss track around a road course, which is all we've seen SVG do it at so far. But he's gotten pretty good at that. That's kind of a supercar special, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And again, Hill ended up finishing 5th, so not all was lost. But I'm sure he would have loved to avenge what happened to him at Coda. That's the word I was looking for, and take the win at Sonoma. But came up short there. Austin Green, I want to give a shout out to him. Go check out Brock's channel if you haven't already. He followed up with David Green, who was working as an official at Sonoma this weekend. Got a brief interview with him, and I know they were ecstatic to see him finish up there in the top 5. Preview to my one shining moment potentially. Stay tuned to the end of the show for that. Sheldon Creed, Sam Mayer. We'll get into Mayer a little bit later on here as well with what he did in the Arca West race, but let's continue catching up on Max's comments here. Not as much push and shove, not so supercars. They break too easily and get penalized. So making the comparison there. And speaking of comparisons, Max thinks SVG is a class above Ambrose, and
I agree already.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Marcus Ambrose was very competitive on the road courses here, but I don't think he was winning this quickly when he came over to NASCAR. It took him some time to break through. And I still remember that battle with Carl Edwards, him leading going into the final chicane and hopping that curb, and Carl coming through and taking the win there. An absolutely heartbreaking ordeal for him. But of course, he came back later and was able to get some wins of his own. And that's just the Nationwide Xfinity Series. Obviously, you think of him as Sonoma in that JTG car. He probably should have won that race in 2010, but just timing, shutting the engine off, trying to save fuel on an uphill, that cost him there. So SVG not falling into those mistakes that cost Marcus Ambrose a couple of road course wins early on in his NASCAR career. I don't disagree with that at all. I think the fact that he has been able to close the deal twice now on back-to-back weekends in Xfinity, and then, of course, at Chicago last year in the Cup Series, you could certainly say he's a class above Ambrose. Adams, SVG, talking to Marcus Ambrose on the phone, I think has helped him learn these weekends a lot, no doubt there. Perfect person to go to for somebody trying to make that transition like Marcus did all those years ago. And Max following up here saying Adam, SVG will study and ask questions. He's a student of going fast. Again, no lies detected there. He's proven that here over these last couple of weeks. Well, let's look at the rest of the results here. You see Parker Kligerman, Parker Retzlaff, 2 Parkers fighting it out for a top 10 spot there. Kligerman coming out on top there. AJ Allmendinger, like we mentioned, not a great result for him. He had a top 10, I think even top 5 stretch going on road courses in the Xfinity Series that we saw come to an end there. A frustrating afternoon for him, and the cars not being where he, of course, is accustomed to them being. That's been a common theme for Colleague, of course, all throughout the year, like we mentioned. Ed Jones, solid top 15 run for him, and we'll go on to the second page here for you now. Brad Perez, got the chance to interview Brad after the race. He finished in 24th in his start here with SS Greenlight Racing, and said that he thought he had a top 15 car. It was just unfortunate how it worked out with his seat insert not being set up properly, and he took the blame for that, said that was on him, but wasn't too comfortable in the car there, and said that if he hadn't had to deal with that, he thought he could have finished significantly higher than he did even. But right here, I think proving that another thing that he said during his interview with me, the best car he's ever had on a road course in the Xfinity Series. Not a bad result for him there, and hopefully he can work with some of his partners to put a deal together for some more races later this year and maybe go get that top 15 finish. Boris said, unfortunate weekend for him. Again, probably had the primary car to finish a little bit higher than 28th, but he wrecked that car in practice, had to go to a backup. Brandon, you were saying backstage, it was like he brought the test kind of paint scheme out there, a plain black car, not the Ricky Hendrick throwback HendrickCars.com scheme, but just a black car with the number and the HendrickCars.com logo on it. Obviously didn't have a lot of time to set it up because of how little practice we have nowadays, but got a couple laps in qualifying during the group qualifying session to set that up. Ended up finishing P28. And we'll see. I would hate to think that this would be how Boris goes out here. I think a lot of people were under the assumption that this might be his final NASCAR start. Then again, I think we thought that before when it comes to Boris said. So we'll see if there's anything in the future for him. But of course, Boris is a great road course racer in his own right. You can't let the 28th place result dictate his skill level on the road courses. Hendrick, I think, gave him a great opportunity, and it's unfortunate that he couldn't finish a little bit higher than he did. But great to see him out there still competing in this series. And unfortunately, the one name you don't see on here, Sage Karam, the lone DNQ, second week in a row on the road courses for that number 35 Joey Gase Motorsports team, and 3 straight DNQs dating back to Charlotte as well. So hopefully that team can bounce back. I think Joey himself is getting behind the wheel this weekend at Iowa, if I recall correctly, seeing the entry list come out this week. So hopefully that team can bounce back. But Brandon, is there anything else that stood out to you from the Xfinity Series race here before we move on?
I was just going to say, if only Boris could have dipped his car in water, maybe he would have got his primary scheme back with the test car watercolor changers.
That's a throwback there.
Yeah.
With those die-cast, yeah.
But yeah, Boris said really cool race car driver. Hopefully this is not his final start, as we've so often thought before. Kind of like the mixture of Bob Ross and meets Chuck Norris meets, he's just super race car driver, and one of the classic road ringers. And then for the Gase number 35 team, that's hard to hear for Sage Karam, but they'll hopefully bounce back here and get rid of those DNQs.
Yeah, as we transition over here, actually, I'm just thinking of Boris being in his early 60s, Dale Quarterly also in his early 60s, and he is still running very competitively in the ARCA Menards Series West on these road courses. So maybe there's an ARCA West team out there that wants to give Boris a call. Maybe that could be an opportunity for him in the future. But let's move on now to the ARCA West race, and some familiar names here. Sam Mayer obviously taking the win. Brandon Jones in 8th. They were the Xfinity regulars. Noah Gragson got behind the wheel of the Rhett Jones number 30 car, but he's going to make some Xfinity starts with as well later this year. Already has made one of them. We'll see how often that car gets out to the track, but unfortunate deal for him, having some issues there following a lap down, coming home in 16th, but it was an Xfinity regular in Sam Mayer that took the win. Tyler Reif, Sean Hingorani, William Swalich, and Jack Wood rounding out the top 5. Isabella Robusto was running up in the top 5 as well. Another strong run for her in 6th. Like we mentioned, Brandon Jones, he had some problems at the start as well. I think he had some contact lead to a tire rub. He had to come into the pits to take care of that, but he recovered to an 8th place finish. Dale Quarterly, the last car in the lead lap, unfortunately getting spun on the last lap there, so that shuffled him back probably 6 to 8 spots lower than he should have been in the results. But good, like I said, good to see Dale still out there running competitively at this point in his career. Great to see. Obviously, it's been a common theme on this show the last couple of years with how strong he's run in these races, particularly Portland and Sonoma. And we'll take you to the back final third of the results, if you will. Tony Huffman with the Bobby Hillis team, Fierce Creature Racing, finally officially took the green flag, so he gets credit for the start. It's not a did not start, but obviously working with Brock and NASCAR this weekend, we were following that battle, last place battle, if you will, very closely, and we had a feeling it might be of a number 0 car. I'm at least happy that Tony got to take the green flag, but coming to the green flag on the warm-up pace laps, he spun in turn 3 because the car had no brakes. Now think about trying to wheel a big heavy stock car around somewhere like Sonoma without brakes. Certainly a challenging task, to say the least, and he was able to avoid any significant damage at the very least, and try to rejoin the pack, but obviously without brakes, pretty much impossible task to catch back up before the race starts. So he took the green flag, I think, 15 to 20 seconds after the rest of the field, and ended up just nursing it around to complete almost a full lap. He stopped in his temporary garage stall. They used the ARCA teams used pit road as a temporary garage setting this weekend. So he didn't quite make it to the start finish line. So he's not credited with a lap completed, but it is an official start, and Racing Reference got the reason out right because Brock was able to interview him after the race, and he said that it was obviously a brake issue that led him to obviously pit so early. So unfortunate for him. He did mention he's going to be at Irwindale, though, so hopefully they can get that car out there. I'd assume that it's pretty much a planned start and park car most weekends anyway, but I'd like to be able to see him at least be able to run a few laps before having to pull in to the pits. But unfortunate for Bobby Hillis as well in the team's main 27 car, because they were having a strong run given that team's limited resources. That's why they have a less than sign on the zero car, because that's been the running theme for that team for the last several years. It's supposed to represent the budget that they have. They do a lot with a little over there, but unfortunately he was down in the bottom 5 there as well. So that was an interesting battle to follow this weekend, obviously, with Brock and NASCAR, but thankful to have the opportunity to do that again here in year 3. Brandon, was there anything that stood out to you from the West race? And I guess we can talk about this aspect of it a little bit as well. Having the Xfinity drivers in this race, I guess, is a good thing that our friend Josh Birch isn't on the show tonight.
Yeah, a couple there to kind of spoil the fun. Sam Mayer, though, taking the victory. Then Noah Gregson kind of having the embarrassing task of being off the lead lap as a NASCAR Cup Series driver. But, it just depends on the equipment you get and what happens there. Always love having ARCA West, of course, at Sonoma Raceway. It is, we've talked about it, kind of their, if they've got a crown jewel, that's one of them is for ARCA West to be out in their natural habitat in wine country. And so that's always a fun race aesthetically to see, no matter what's going on. So great there, and also always love the work that Brock does with NASCAR and you as well, because those teams they need that kind of recognition, and sometimes that's just enough to help them get to their next step when they get publicity like that. Even if it is for finishing last, it's just always been such a wonderful premise, and I'm glad that it's still going the way it is.
Yeah, I got to say, it was a race of high attrition, which was a little surprising given that I think everybody on this second half of the results here, Brian Kaminsky, actually got up and led a few laps on an off-sequence pit strategy, but unfortunately he had to retire the car as well. Venturini, not sure what happened with them. Obviously, Robusto had a good result, but Brent Cruz and Gio Ruggiero both had to retire as well. Cruz even caused a caution when his entire wheel came off, so something obviously wasn't right with the setup on that Venturini car. But unfortunate that so many fell out of the race. But again, I think that's part of the storylines, like you were mentioning, Brandon, that sometimes get overlooked. And we want to make sure that these teams, even though I'm sure they wish it was under better circumstances a lot of the time, particularly the Venturini teams that fell out of the race, they still have stories that are waiting to be told. It's just up to somebody to tell them. So I'm glad that Brock is out there doing that every week, and I'm able to help him on the ARCA side of things. And again, like I said, I'm glad to see. I mean, again, I would not want to try to drive a car around Sonoma without any brakes. Certainly not an enjoyable experience, but at least Tony Huffman started the race and gets credit for that this week. So that's good to see. And a fairly strong car count as well, with 31 cars. That's, I think, speaks highly of where the series has been headed this year. We've been talking about that on multiple occasions this season so far. We even had DNQs at Daytona and Phoenix because so many cars showed up. So that speaks highly to the health of where ARC is headed here in 2024 as well.
That's nearly a full Craftsman Truck Series field. That's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, a comment coming in from MTL-SS, Jamie Chadwick, sponsored and supported by David Decker of Road and Cars from New Zealand. And Max Fish following up with that. Per capita, New Zealand must be one of the best racing nations, and I'm Australian there.
Wow, your family's going to disown you, Max.
Well,
same thing how I've heard.
Yeah. Well, obviously, with SVG winning, I think not too many people are going to be arguing that here with what he's been doing here the last couple of weeks. But that is the perfect segue. Let's move on here. Our final race to recap. The only race that I was not at this weekend was my co-writer at NASCAR, William Soki's home track. I don't believe he was at Road America this weekend, but the fans that were there got to see some history. Jamie Chadwick, the first female driver to win in Indy NXT / Indy Lights in 14 years. Pippa Mann was the last one at Kentucky in 2010, and only the third ever. Anna Beatrice won at Nashville in 2008 and Iowa in 2009. But those are all ovals. Jamie Chadwick, the first female driver to win a Lights / Next race on a road course, and she did not just win this race. She sat on pole and led every lap on her way to the win. Louis Foster, even under the red flag at the end of the race, was heard over the radio saying, "I don't have the pace to match Jamie, so make sure she can give me some slipstream so I can hold off Jacob Abel." So that speaks to how dominant she was this weekend. Brandon, what's your reaction to Jamie Chadwick getting this Indy NXT win at Road America?
Absolutely incredible for Jamie Chadwick and for Andretti Global. All of the lot. That's really cool. With only 20 starts, of course, she had a really rough year last year, and then being able to come to this year, be the first female to win on a road course in Indy NXT. That's really, really neat. And also just dominating from the pole, outright taking it, and uh, competitors behind her saying, we can't keep up with her. Just help us fend off the rest behind us. I know women in motorsports can have a great time here on grid this week. That's really cool to see, and also to join the likes of Pippa Mann and also Anna. That's some big news as well.
Yeah, I'm sure we will have more on that on Women in Motorsports this week. I don't know if Joe's watching the chat here when we're planning to tape that. Obviously, my schedule's been thrown for a bit of a loop. That's why you're seeing this here on Tuesday and not Monday. Doing this on just a few hours of sleep here on the airplane. But
I showed up Monday and no one was here. I'm kidding. I didn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, but it's easy to have the energy to come do this show when we obviously had a great experience out of a track this weekend, and then I noticed Jeff Gluck sitting just a few seats down from where I was at the media center. He was doing the same thing I was. Had Peacock pulled up, waiting to see if we were going to see some history here, and some great battles for the top three spots. It really was before that red flag. Unfortunate deal with Miles Rowe. I forget who else was involved in that deal there that caused the red flag at the end of the race. I'm sure in the moment, Jamie was probably hoping that they would just run those laps out under caution and call the race there. But so we know from the Indy 500 the last couple of years, that seems to be the trend that the direction the series has gone is, trying to give the fans a green flag finish for better or for worse. But fortunately for Jamie, it didn't matter here. She was able to get the win regardless. So again, congratulations to her. And doing it on a road course, we'll see where she is later this year when we tackle some of the ovals. Because I know that was, Brandon, you mentioned obviously last year was a struggle making the transition over for, I think the ovals particularly highlighted that. So we'll see. Obviously, it's been a massive step forward on the road and street courses so far for this year in terms of her pace. She also had the podium at the IMS road course as well a few weeks ago. So I think the ovals are going to be the true test for her. But again, this is an absolutely tremendous result for her, and we'll see. I think obviously, like I said, the ovals, we'll see where she's at there, and I think that'll determine whether or not we can put her in IndyCar conversation for 2025, or if she could use another year here, and that's maybe a 2026 conversation. Who knows? But yeah, regardless, great result for her this weekend, and again, I'm sure we will have more on that with Joe on Women in Motorsports later this week. And speaking of Joe, I see him here in the chat. Welcome back. Thank you, Joe. And thank you again as well for your hospitality a couple of weekends ago at Portland. Pleasure to be out there working with you, and thankful for the opportunities. All right. Let me get the results off the screen here. We'll go into a couple of chat comments, and then we will wrap the show up with our shining moments here. Mintox Ace says SVG is ready for Cup. The car is much closer to what he's used to doing. Will be easier for him to adapt. That's true. That's a good point. The next gen car resembles the supercars, I think, much more than the Gen 5 and Gen 6 car that Marcus Ambrose was trying to adapt to did as well when he was racing here. So that could play into his strength and advantage, maybe put him in that conversation for next year. Denver Thurston, staying on the supercars subject here. Did you hear the rumor about Kyle Busch might be racing supercars in the Adelaide 500? Brandon, I saw some tweets this morning. Haven't read too far into it, but have you heard these rumors?
I have not heard a thing about that, but that is interesting. Maybe Zone will follow him over there.
Yeah, obviously Kyle's a very talented driver here, and anybody who follows NASCAR Cup or NASCAR Xfinity and trucks, as we frequently lament here on this show. But
More success in those ranks this year for sure.
Yes, yeah, and obviously a very talented race car driver. I have no doubt that he would be willing to give that a shot. I haven't seen him in headlines. I feel like the rumors have made their way into our grid chat. I think Matt White was saying something about that this morning, that that might be a possibility. But there are some rumors that I think at the very least an unnamed, not yet made public NASCAR driver is being linked to an opportunity like that. So if it is Kyle Busch, I can't say I'd be surprised. Obviously Kyle wanted to run the Indy 500 for several years, hasn't been able to put that deal together, but maybe he can make this deal work for the Adelaide 500 later this year. We'll see. All right. Well, on that note, Brandon, let's wrap up the show tonight. What is your one shining moment? Do you maybe have multiple shining moments? I know it's a big weekend for us here.
Yeah, I've got to start trimming down on those, but I'll be very brief on them. The first thing, the Sonoma repave, man, it couldn't have gone better. I think that put on a great Cup race, especially Xfinity Series. It kind of felt like last year, although there was a little more excitement going on, of course, with SVG in town. But the Cup Series put on a really good show, and it was good to see Sonoma get some respect and have a good weekend for 2024. Also, Kyle Larson, after the waiver news from the Indy 500 Coke 600 fiasco, not even being able to drive in the Coke 600 because of rain, and coming back and doing what he does best, just take the checkered flag and win at Sonoma. That was great to see. And also, I have to talk about Fox and Xfinity, with the Xfinity Series, rather, and then also the end of an era of the last show from Speed coming to a close. That's NASCAR Race Hub, and of course, it's as in some opinions, it's fallen from grace over the past few years. We definitely remember where it was and what some bare bone pieces of NASCAR Race Hub that still were remaining to the end that we know and love. Gotta appreciate that, and also appreciate Fox for their Xfinity Series coverage. We can complain about it all we want, but they go out there each and every weekend and do the hard work so we can see it on TV. So I want to thank them for all of their time with the Xfinity Series broadcasts, and looking forward, though, equally to see the CW's transition in 2025. That's all I could think of for my one shining moments this week.
I don't think the TV network should be above criticism, and I know that that's part of our job actually as the media, is to make sure that we call them out when they come up short and hold one another in check here. But I acknowledge, look, I've never been in a broadcast booth. I've never been behind the scenes of a television production. I can imagine, though, that it is not an easy task to put that together, and particularly a weekly, or not weekly, a daily show every week while NASCAR's in season, like Race Hub has been for, I think, I saw a tweet before we came on the air, 2,584 episodes. Just a tremendous run for that program. It's unfortunate that it's coming to an end here. And it is kind of an end of an era with the Xfinity broadcast moving over to the CW, and Fox obviously scaling back a little bit on the Cup side. Even next year, we're still going to have truck races, but it is the end of an era. And I hope that anybody that might be affected by those transitions in terms of layoffs or whatever, we'll see. Maybe they can come over to IndyCar coverage if Fox picks that up. Those conversations are still ongoing, but you never hate to see anybody, come out on the losing end of a business deal like that. So hopefully everybody affected by that can find a new home for next year. And again, the talented people at Race Hub, thank you all so much for what is that? My goodness, I think a 15-year run for that show, dating all the way back to the Speed Channel days. So, and apologies because I know we came on at 7:00. I think it was a 90-minute special tonight, so I guess I just wrapped up not too long ago. I had a DVR, so I'm going to have to go check that out once we're done here. But definitely echo that. And let's see, we got a couple coming in the chat room as well. Kobe Lambeth, good to see you, Kobe. Jamie Chadwick winning and making history at Road America. Obviously, a great one shining moment there. Jagger Jones winning in IMSA at Mid-Ohio days after losing grandfather Cornelli Jones. Yeah, that was sad news to get this weekend. So we're thinking of the Jones family. Absolutely. Parnelli, one of the legends of this great sport here. And Paul Menard winning in Trans Am. I actually wasn't aware of that. There's been a lot going on this weekend. Awesome. So, but good to see Paul still out there competing in Trans Am and obviously having a lot of success doing so. Adam took mine here, but that's all right because it is certainly a worthy contender. I think it was probably Brock's as well this weekend. Austin Green, fantastic run for him. I think in his 3 starts so far, his worst finish is only 15th. So certainly proving that he's got a lot of talent behind the wheel of an Xfinity car and very strong run. And like you said as well, Adam, great seeing his dad, David Green, there as well. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Michelle, if you haven't seen it yet, Brock posted on his channel an interview that he got with David Green shortly after the conclusion of the Xfinity race on Saturday. So go check that out and kind of get a close-up view of that team being able to celebrate Austin's great run here. 4th place in just his 3rd ever start in the series. Hopefully we see him back later this year on the road courses, maybe even an oval or 2 later this year. We'll see. Certainly proving that he deserves an opportunity like that given his strong run this weekend at Sonoma. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week's sorry about that, Brandon here. Like I said, I'm working on only a few hours of sleep here from the.
We need you to sleep.
Yeah, trying to go solo here, hit the side-by-side cam there, but there we go. Let's go through the closing here and pull up all the usual graphics. Thank you all so much for watching this Encore episode tonight, and be sure to subscribe to the Grid Network if you haven't already. You can follow us on all our social media platforms, X/Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, LinkedIn, Threads, most importantly, right here on YouTube. Thank you all so much for 1,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much for the support over the last couple of weeks in particular. Again, great to see so many people from Australia and New Zealand chiming in on the SVG news over the last couple of weeks with his victories back-to-back and the other supercar stars coming over. Great to see our international audience growing as well as it is here in the States. And like I said at the top of the show, if you really liked what you saw tonight, you can take a few minutes after the show to consider joining our Patreon. Join Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. Help make more weekends like the last couple of weekends for me a reality and help get us to the track on a more regular basis in 2025 and beyond. And that'll only continue to expand what we're trying to build here at Grid Network and expand our coverage for you, the viewers. If you'd rather make a one-time donation instead, you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below. You can buy coffee specifically for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network. Any amount will help us continue to grow this outlet. Or if you're watching on YouTube, we now have the super chats enabled as well. Now, on Wednesday, that's tomorrow, with our revised schedule with Encore this week. Don't miss Grid Tonight with Kobe Lambeth, Josh Birch, and Matt White. Women in Motorsports will hopefully be back this week as well, so stay tuned for updates on that. And, of course, more Grid Live coverage this upcoming weekend, as always, to follow. Brandon, any final thoughts before we sign off on this Tuesday edition of Grid Encore?
Yeah, privileged this week to have another MRN chat, this time with the postman, Steve Post, and we'll get a chance to talk to him about the house that Rusty Wallace helped build, Iowa Speedway, and getting its Cup Series debut this weekend. Going to be a lot of fun, and corn and ethanol. We're going to be hearing all about it this weekend, and also the return to NBC for better or for worse. So I hope you all enjoy it. And NASCAR weekend in Iowa, it's sold out, and it's gonna be a lot of fun to see.
Brandon, I'm glad you brought that up because it's not MRN, it's PRN. But I want to add on to my one shining moment here. Doug Rice actually got the opportunity to speak in the media center on Sunday morning, and I know that he's doing his farewell tour as well. He was inducted into Sonoma's Wall of Fame this weekend, and certainly well deserved, and obviously a great voice for the sport over the last many years here with PRN. So great to see him at the track this weekend, and wishing him all the best as he continues his final season behind the mic there. But wanted to add that on to my shining moment since you brought up the radio deal, and best of luck with that interview this weekend with Steve Post. We'll look forward to That I assume you'll keep posting that to your channel over there.
Yeah, it'll. I'll put it up before we head out. That's also another icebreaker. I'm leaving you alone next week, so don't burn the show down.
Yeah, we'll see who we have on next weekend here. I'm sure we can get somebody to fill in for you. But yes, Brent, if you didn't know, Brandon does have a channel as well. So
kind of, sorta, yeah.
You can subscribe here to Grid. You can subscribe to my channel, and I know, Brandon, you don't post as much over there these days, but you have been uploading those interviews if you're not able to catch them live. So go check them out. Talking to a lot of great people over at the MRN family, and we'll look forward to another one this week.
Thank you.
All right. Well, for Brandon Crossland, I'm Ben Schneider. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Joe Samaniego, Ethan Smith, and Brock Beard for the last 2 weekends. I don't take it for granted, and it is a pleasure to take this trip every year. So thank you for that experience. We will see you next time right here on Grid Encore. Have a good week, everybody.